Hello and welcome to this episode of Own the Journey, where we get to interview amazing people from around the world. Today we're at the 417 Think Summit, where we get to interview Brett Payne, the founder and CEO of Contender eSports.
Contender eSports, that's the one.
I'm excited to learn about it. I love the whole idea of eSports and what it can do for the nature, how things are turning. So for those that don't know your history, tell us just a little bit about how you landed in this unique space.
Oh my goodness, that's a long story for sure. I'll keep it very short. So I spent a lot of years in nonprofit and then ended up in technology as a CEO of a software company.
Okay.
Moved from that to franchising, and I actually ended up in the coffee industry, which was very odd, but I learned a lot about franchising. And in the middle of that, I had a very weird call from some guys in China, and they talked about something called eSports. And off I was Googling to figure out how in the world do you spell eSports. I don't know if there's a dash or it was capitalized or anything. And one thing led to another, and I ended up realizing that there could be a possibility to franchise a concept in this in eSports.
So talk to us, what is Contender eSports? What does that organization specifically do? It helps companies?
Well, we actually put in physical gaming locations. We call them social gaming venues. So we have facilities that are between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet. We put them in cities around the United States and outside of the United States. And inside of those facilities, they're open usually from 11 in the morning till midnight or 2 in the morning sometimes. On the weekends, we're open all night long.
Wow.
People come and casually play. So sometimes it's people coming individually. A lot of times it's mom and dads bringing their kids. So there's the casual play, but then we also do tournaments and we do events, we do birthday parties. We're STEM accredited, so we do STEM education there for kids. We do a lot of things. Anything related to gaming that we can do to help the city is what we're there for.
That's amazing. And talk to us just a little bit about how that all weaves together, because you've got a vision about how the gaming community can actually help young people turn into incredible workers.
Yeah, and it's beyond just becoming a pro esports player. That's what every parent thinks their kid is aiming for. Secretly, they probably are aiming for that, but it's probably easier to become a quarterback in the NFL than to become a pro esports gamer, real, statistically. So even though they're inspired by that, we do know that by gaming, there's lots of jobs that can come out of that. They can learn hardware, they can learn software, they can learn app development, they can do HR, they can do marketing. There's lots of things that surround the industry of esports that an individual ultimately might find themselves in, but gaming is the vehicle to get them there because that's what they love to do. We give them the capacity to do it, put good mentors around them, and then help them along that path.
I love that. And so you're taking the passion, combining it with good education and good mentoring, which I appreciate that very much, and then it gets people on the right track. Now you've got a term for that whole process that I'm going to get it wrong.
We do. We call it tech fluency.
Tech fluency.
Tech fluency. It's a word that kind of bridges for people the idea of gaming just for fun, and actually there's a purpose in this in the workplace. And so what we're trying to do is create that bridge in a fun environment where actually the kids don't even know that it's happening, but they are becoming more fluent in technology, hardware, software, building things, selling things, buying skins on Fortnite, all these kinds of things, to where they're acquiring skills that they can actually apply in the workforce. If they work with a company like yours, for instance, they have had a free education by playing games.
Which is amazing.
And most people don't realize that's actually happening, and it's happening organically. And so my goal really with our company is to help make that not so passive, but focused from the city to say, this actually is something that matters to our city. So let's get everybody in the city involved in this, and let's applaud the people who are gaming, because these are ultimately going to be the people who are going to stick around and run our companies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we're going to need the technicians, we're going to need the managers, we're going to need the leaders, and eventually we want people to build their own companies. That's
exactly right. And gaming really does create kind of the fluidity to allow that to happen.
You talk about the idea of building farmhouses as it relates to that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had that idea before I had to do a trip to Saudi Arabia a few months ago, and I was speaking with this group called the eSports Authority, and I was trying to figure out what are the things that I know are common, no matter who I speak to in the world, they can all kind of relate to it. One of those things is classic rock music. It doesn't matter if you and I call somebody in Islamabad, Pakistan, they're going to know who Led Zeppelin is. That just is going to happen.
Right.
The other thing that I found, because I talk to people all over the world, and it's always a point of common communication, is soccer. it's true with anybody I talk to in the world. I can bring up classic rock music if I need a common point to have a conversation with, or I can bring up soccer. I can say something like, well, I know that you live in Southampton in England, but I'm a Liverpool fan, so I hope that doesn't offend you. And immediately I have a bond with the person. It's a little trick that I've used.
Yeah.
I was going to Saudi. I know that they are big soccer fans as well, and I told a story about how FC Barcelona built their entire program, and it was based in a place called La Masia, which is a farmhouse in Spain. I told this story to them. That's how they grew champions, and I told them in Saudi Arabia, if you want to grow champions, you can follow the same process. You just need to build farmhouses.
Yeah, that's so good.
Thank you.
It. Yeah, so good. Now, you've taken a lot of what you have learned in other areas as it relates to franchising, and you've put it into this model. How has that come together? How has that served you? And now you're international, obviously, and so that's obviously had a big impact.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, you and I both share the understanding that business is business. Everyone says that, right? So when you look at a business, there's certain components, and as long as you can execute on those components, you can really apply it to anything. So when I got into franchising, the person who asked me at Classic Rock Coffee, like, do you know anything about this and can you franchise it? I said, number one, no, I don't. But number two, yes, I can, because I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I took the skill sets that I had in working with people overseas, living overseas, doing business, doing nonprofit, doing all these kind of things, and really knowing that the core of what I wanted to do was to love people. That was the main thing for me.
Yeah, so good.
That I could take that and I could look at esports as something that I know everyone is either playing or they know someone that's playing, but they're doing it in kind of an isolated way. Could I build a structure and a facility that would bring people together? That was my whole goal. And so that's what I spend every moment of my day trying to do.
I love it.
Is give a safe place for people to come together, that can communicate, build relationships, build skills, have fun, do all these kind of things. But ultimately, there's a long-term goal to this, and I think we just touched on that a few moments ago.
Yeah, well, and I think the intentionality around what you're doing is so good, because you're taking something that a lot of parents actually see as a negative in their lives, and you're making it a positive, and that's something that I think it takes a special visionary to be able to do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think it is generational, though, right? So, like, for our parents, their parents did not like the fact that they were listening to the radio, or God forbid, watch TV, right? When we were kids, maybe it was, well, you shouldn't be on the internet. So there are these generational stages that there's a flip-flop nonstop that goes on, and I think we're just in one of those. People don't understand what esports and gaming is, the complexity of it now, but in 5 years or in 10 years, people are going to understand the reason behind it. So we're ahead of the curve. I realize that. It makes the work a lot harder.
I'm sure
for
it does.
Sure. But in my estimation, someone has to be the voice of it and just keep talking about it, and that's what I do.
I love that. Well, and I think one of the interesting things that I learned not too long ago is that during one of the gaming championships, there were actually more viewers of that than there were of the Super Bowl. I mean,
it's 100% true.
That's how internationally
it's 100%
engaged
true.
that this is. So it's not like it's brand new by any means. It's popular everywhere, but the concept of what you're doing and being intentional about this, that's what's bringing the
That's right. It's another interesting thing is that the age group of 7 to 11-year-olds consumes more content on Twitch than they do of all 4 major sports in the United States put together.
Wow.
So that generation of kids, they're growing up, they're used to these kinds of things. For parents, the difficulty is when we go, well, we don't understand why you're watching someone play Fortnite on YouTube.
Exactly.
Every parent that's probably watching this video has said a similar thing.
I have, yeah.
Right, and I typically say to them, they also don't understand why you turn on the TV on Sunday afternoon and watch a guy hit a white ball across a grass field. It makes no sense to our kids, but we do it, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's just a thinking process that has to change, and as soon as parents, adults, business owners understand why they're doing it, there is a reason, and we go, okay, we're going to figure out where the end result is, and they engage with them, and they pat them on the back and say, we're really proud of what you're doing. It changes a kid's life, and that's what I want our city to do. I want our city to say we're proud of you, and for companies to be engaged in the gaming community everywhere, because all of a sudden it is like a honeypot. It'll draw the gamers in, and then you've got more staff, right?
Yeah, which I love. Yeah. So how does an organization or how does an individual get engaged with you? How do we
with Contender eSports?
Yeah. I mean, like if we want to help promote this, how do we do it?
I mean, there's lots of different things that we could do. I mean, there's obviously ways that when we run lots of events and tournaments to have your presence there and be a part of that. Simple promotion of things. I think anything where we can put a company's name side by side with what is happening with the gaming community sends a message not only to the people who are playing but to their parents. Hey, why is J-Mark associated with this thing that's gaming? It gives validity to it, right? That's probably the easiest, safest thing to do, is just match a company along with an event, just to give nothing else but validity. There's lots of other things that could happen with school systems and the universities, all kinds of things, but that probably is the safest thing right now.
Oh, great. I appreciate that, and we'll definitely talk.
Good, that sounds great.
Those are our future engineers, so
that's 100% true.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, as we wrap up, share with us some of the best advice that you've ever received.
Best advice that I've ever received? Well, I think probably some of the best advice I received when I was at a very low point in my life. I was the CEO of a software company, and the guy who owned the company, he was from England. He showed up here in town in Springfield one day, and he said, I think I'm going to go and move to France and buy a farm and buy some cows. And I said, that's great, Brendan. I don't know why you're telling me this. He goes, I think I want to shut down the software company. So I had to leave that day. This is true. I had to leave that day, walk over to my office, and I had to fire everybody in our software company in this country and in 2 other countries in the same day. And that night, it's true, that night, he met me in my office, and of course, I was pretty mad about the whole thing. And I said, Brendan, well, what about me? And he goes, Brett, the world is your oyster. And he ran his fingers through his hair and just sat back. And I thought, I don't know if he's mocking me or what is happening right now, but I realized that I had an opportunity to either take that as something that I could get upset by or take that as a challenge. And so from that day forward in 2012, I have believed the world is my oyster.
I love it.
That's the best advice I've had.
That's so good.
All right.
Well, thank you for everything.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah.